America has always meant possibility, a place where a new beginning is not only allowed but welcomed, where effort can bend the arc of a life. Between aspiration and arrival, though, stands a single gatekeeper, the U.S. green card. That little rectangle of plastic is safety, stability, and an open horizon all at once. In 2025, the journey toward it can feel more distant than ever. Longer queues, tougher interviews, stricter compliance. Yet beneath the surface, there are 5 fully legal pathways, often whispered about as loopholes, that can move a qualified person forward faster than the crowded main roads. They aren't hacks and they aren't tricks. They're written into the system for reasons that make sense if you follow the story of how the U.S. balances family unity, job creation, talent, protection, and diversity. If you listen closely, what sounds like a secret is really a map. Imagine a nurse finishing a night shift in Manila, a student in Lagos holding an American university offer, a couple in Buenos Aires wondering how to stop living on opposite sides of the ocean. Most people meet the immigration system through its slowest door and never find another. They wait. They plan their lives around calendar notices and case status portals. They measure time in biometrics appointments and email refreshes. But some people, patient, prepared, and lucky in the ways that preparation attracts luck, step onto routes that gather momentum. The first of those is the most famous for a reason. Love really does move mountains. When a U.S. citizen marries, the law says their spouse is an immediate relative, outside the yearly quotas that choke other categories. It's not a magic wand. It's a microscope. Officers will look for the signs that a real life leaves behind. Leases and bills with both names, shared finances handled imperfectly but honestly, photos spread across seasons and families, old texts that don't perform love but reveal it. No one should ever fake this. Marriage fraud is a felony that ruins futures and can shatter communities. But for real couples, the process, while intimate and sometimes uncomfortable, is straightforward. Petition is filed. If both are in the United States, they may ask to adjust status and, if eligible, work while they wait. If one is abroad, the case runs through a national center, then a consulate interview. It's still a journey. The difference is that the line itself is shorter. What begins as a ceremony becomes a file. What ends as a card becomes a home with one mailing address instead of 2. The second road looks nothing like the first. Where love unites families, capital builds them a neighborhood. The investor route trades risk and job creation for stability. Put substantial, lawfully obtained capital into a qualifying U.S. enterprise, allow that money to be truly at risk, and produce the required American jobs within the time frame the law demands. Families who qualify include a spouse and minor children. It's expensive and it's exacting. You don't just claim wealth. You prove it with a paper trail that makes sense. Tax returns, contracts, bank wires that connect cleanly from source to project. Many people choose pooled projects run by regional centers precisely because counting jobs and complying with the rules is their full-time work. The payoff, when it comes, is both practical and poetic. A vacant lot becomes steel and glass. A spreadsheet becomes people with paychecks. The United States is explicit about what it wants here: honest money that fuels real employment. In return, for those who can document every step, the path to residency can be far more direct than waiting for a lottery of timing to smile on a distant priority date. It isn't instant, and it isn't for everyone, but when it works, you can watch a future go from blueprint to move-in. The third path begins not with a petition but a backpack. A student arrives on an education visa and chooses a degree with gravity, something the American economy actually needs. It starts in classrooms and labs, and then it extends into the world through practical training that lets graduates work in their field for a period of time. Those months are more than a postscript to school. They are the audition. Managers see what's on a resume turn into results. Colleagues start sentences with your name when they talk about what went right. For many, that proof of value opens the bridge to a longer work authorization, and from there to an employer-backed application for permanent residence. Some people build a record so strong, research, patents, publications, a national impact, that they can argue their work serves the country's broader interests and ask to skip parts of the normal sponsorship path. None of this is automatic. It demands choices at each step. The right major for the market, internships before everyone else realizes they should apply, mentors you help so they'll help you back, portfolios you maintain even when your calendar says you can't. But it is a staircase that climbs. If you treat school like a seed rather than a trophy, the system will meet you halfway. The fourth route is the hardest to talk about and the most vital to preserve. Not every shortcut is a strategy. Sometimes it's a lifeline. For people who have been persecuted or fear persecution because of who they are or what they believe, the immigration system becomes a shield. If you're granted protection, the law doesn't leave you in limbo. After a period of time living in the United States, stability can become permanence. The people who walk this road don't need cleverness. They need truth, and they need to tell it consistently. A life lived under threat leaves marks in medical records, in police reports, in affidavits from those who saw things firsthand, in the quiet details that match a country's human rights reports without trying to. Officers listen. They ask. They compare what you say today with what you said when the adrenaline was still part of your bloodstream. The system makes room here also for those who were exploited or trafficked, for certain victims of qualifying crimes who helped investigators, and for people paroled for urgent humanitarian reasons under programs that sometimes lead to permanence later. It isn't quick and it isn't easy, but for those the law is written to protect, the day a plastic card arrives is the day sleep returns. A father stashes it in a drawer and finally throws out the go bag. A child stops checking the door at night. The fifth path looks like luck and behaves like design. Once a year, the United States runs a drawing that exists to widen the circle, aimed at countries that send fewer immigrants overall. Entry costs nothing. You don't need a job offer or an American relative or a billionaire's balance sheet. You need to be from an eligible country, meet education or work requirements, submit an entry that follows the instructions with boring perfection, and keep your confirmation number like it's a passport of its own. There are no guarantees and no shortcuts to a selection. The only trick is accuracy. One person, one entry. A current photo that meets the specifications, truthful information, and action if you're selected, because the window to move is not a metaphor. It is a deadline on a calendar that will not extend because your printer jammed. Every year, tens of thousands of people go from maybe one day to pack a bag. In cafes across the world, you can hear the same line again and again. I almost didn't submit. I thought nobody ever wins. The lottery doesn't owe anyone everything, but it offers someone something most systems never do. A door that doesn't ask who you know. Listen long enough and you'll hear a melody under all 5 routes. It's the sound of credibility. The system wants to trust you. It is cautious because it must be. It is generous when you meet it halfway. That's why preparation is the real accelerant. The files that move are the files where the dates line up, the statements agree with the documents, the photos match the claims, the money flows in a traceable line from a paycheck or a property sale to a wire with a reference number. Shortcut isn't the right word. Really. These are official lanes with rules that reward those who follow them. When people talk about speed, what they usually mean is clarity. Officers who see the story on the page don't have to go hunting for IT. So what does this mean in 2025? When policy winds shift and headlines change tone every other month, it means the foundations haven't moved. A real marriage still matters more than almost anything in law. Capital that hires Americans still turns into residency when you can show where it came from and what it built. Education earned here still translates into work that anchors you and persuades an employer to stake their credibility on yours. Protection still exists for those who need it most, and it still becomes permanence because lives cannot be rebuilt on temporary permission. And diversity still matters enough that a free entry on a government website once a year can rewrite a family story forever. These aren't loopholes that exploit a system. They are pressure valves that define it. They say what the country values. Families together, jobs created, talent developed, people protected, doorways kept open to places the map might otherwise forget. If you're the student, treat your classroom like a runway and your first internship like a final exam. If you're the partner across an ocean, build a life that leaves proof in its wake and do not cut corners when fear tells you to. If you're the entrepreneur, hire professionals who will poke holes in your plan before the government has to. If you're seeking safety, hold fast to the truth you've carried this far and refuse to let anyone rush you into telling it badly. If you're entering the lottery, ignore the noise, read the rules, and submit when the window opens. The difference between never and someday might be a photograph sized correctly and a confirmation number saved where you can find it. None of this is easy. It isn't supposed to be. But every week, in rooms that look like any office and at windows that look like any bank tellers, approvals happen. A status page changes. A case number disappears into the past tense. Someone buys a coat because winter is different where they're going. Someone quits a job with a handshake and a thank you and a promise to visit. Someone tells a parent, "It's real." The green card does not guarantee a perfect life. It offers a platform sturdy enough to build one. If what you heard today opened a door in your mind, remember that everything here is legal and meant to be used honestly. This isn't legal advice, it's a story about how people move when they match themselves to the paths that fit. Tell me which part surprised you. Tell me which part you want to know more about. I read it all and I save your questions because they become the next episode. Until then, take care of your documents, take care of your timeline, and take care of your hope. Some doors take years to open. Some open as soon as you learn where the handle is. And that's all for today's video. These stories remind us how quickly the world can change and how fragile the dream of America can be for millions of people. If you found this video interesting, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next update. I'll be back soon with another shocking story about America's immigration, visas, and bans. Until then, stay safe, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next video.